when I was a little kid, if you tell me that, hey, your life is going to take you here, I would be like, you're crazy. At that time, nobody, even me, that thought I'm going to get an opportunity to come in the United States. I think the mentality home, if you really want to farm full-time, then you're going to have a hard life. But I've always been around animals, and I like working with my hands and staying busy and doing this and that. My dad told me straight, it's gonna be really tough. Maybe they won't accept why this guy coming here. You don't look the same. And there's not so many people like me around here who say, I wanna farm. But I'm gonna try this and see if it's gonna work. When God told Moses to reach out and grab the snake, well, that snake is like your dream. Most people are waiting for the snake to be a rod. But God is telling you, grab it the way it is. It looks scary right now, but just do it anyway.
I remember the first time I ever flew on an airplane. As we flew across the country, I remember looking out the window the whole time, my nose just pressed against the glass, sort of surveying the land below me. I remember having this strange sense of duty to dedicate myself in some way to helping.
Opioid addiction reaching epidemic levels.
Fast-moving fires in parts of California.
Breaking news, at least 9 people killed overnight in a massacre.
As I grew older, I ended up raising a family and becoming a lawyer and ultimately becoming CEO of Chipotle Mexican Grill.
And it's a vision to change food culture.
One of the things I liked best was interacting with thousands and thousands of people over the years and really getting to know them. Loads of different people from very different walks of life. The more I got to know, the more convinced I was that, man, we're all very much the same in so many ways. And you wouldn't know that from what we see on TV or hear on the radio. All that stuff suggests that we're very divided, that we're not united at all, that we're all about disagreement, that we're all about arguing, that we're all about fighting. But I think the truth is just the opposite. There's a great deal more that unites us. What I want to do with this docuseries is to tell the stories of people who might never be seen or heard, and to help bring the wisdom from many people from many different walks of life so that everyone has access to it. In some ways, I'm still just that small boy with my nose pressed against the glass, looking down at this beautiful place we all live, and wanting to do some good. Wanting to demonstrate that there's a lot more that unites us than divides us. After a bumpy flight over America's Great Plains, I begin my descent into a small, friendly airport in Brookings, South Dakota. I've come to immerse myself into farm country, to meet some of the hardy people who raise the grains, produce, and animals which feed millions of people throughout America and around the world. I'm curious to learn more about what draws people to this difficult and time-intensive work, which is seldom an easy living. And also to find out what causes some children to return to their childhood farms when so many have left this profession since the founding of our nation. wonder how difficult it would be for an outsider to become part of the lifestyle here and join a profession that the vast majority of people are born into. Would they be easily welcomed, or would they find it impossible to assimilate? How has the consolidation of small farms into large corporate farms affected the people on these lands? And is there still a viable path forward for those working on small family farms to pass on this most ancient of professions to their children and grandchildren? So you were born in Tanzania?
Yep, I was born in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania.
Dar es Salaam?
Yep, and I have 3 younger brothers and 1 sister.
And what did your parents do there?
Well, my mom used to work for the U.S. Embassy, and my dad used to work for a company called Tanzanian Oxygen. So they make oxygen tank and nitrogen. And then we had a small farm. My parents kind of farm part-time in the evening, kind of like what I do now. We had dairy cows, that was our main thing. We milk cow twice a day, and we had goats. And
So from when you were a little boy, your parents were part-time farmers?
Yep. My grandfather was a serious chicken farmer, so he had lots of cow and hens, and he sell eggs. So I know I used to really like going visit him.
Oh, okay. So you had some experience with farming even when you were a little teeny kid.
Yep.
Did your grandfather teach you a lot about farming?
Yeah, and I think my parents thought it was great experience for the kids to teach us to be able to provide for our own food, and we had everything we need at home.
Oh, okay.
They didn't know it was gonna get serious.
Did they want you to become a farmer?
If I have to be honest, no.
Not really.
Yeah.
Why not?
When I say I want to farm, well, we think about farmers in my country. They're poor.
Okay.
And when you say, I want to be a farmer, my dad, the first impression, no, probably you want to go to school, get a degree, and get a town job. If you really want to be a farmer full-time here, it's going to be a hard life for you.
So is that the general thought that in Tanzania, people who are full-time farmers are generally poor?
Yeah.
That's the general thought.
That's the general
about it.
thought, yeah. You know, people expect like the farmer, the farmer's market with the straw hat, with this.
The twig.
Yeah. But farmers nowadays, they're really smart. They go to school, they have degrees, and
Sophisticated.
it's very sophisticated.
Yeah.
So if I really want to do it, I gotta make sure I have the knowledge to back it up and be able to run it as a business.
At what age did you hatch this idea of coming to the United States?
When I finished high school, I was working part-time in town. So I know when I got off work, I walk to the embassy and wait for my mom in the library. They had a library there, the U.S. Embassy.
Oh, okay.
And I would read books, and they had, I think it was Tuesday or Thursday, they talk about studying in America. I still wanted to farm, and I had this thing that tell me, well, you cannot farm in Tanzania because it's going to be a hard life, or you don't want to be poor. I want to make sure I have a good life. And in school, we talk about farming and how American is farming corn and soybean, how big. I said, this would be a great experience if I can come here and study. And then if I can learn the process, how they do it, maybe I might be able to do it better at home or help other people at home.
So the idea was to come here to learn and then take that knowledge back to
Yeah.
Tanzania.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that's exactly why I started looking for school, and people would say, oh, if you wanna go Iowa, because Iowa, that's the farming area. And so I got a chance to go to a school in Waverly, Iowa, until I finished college, and then I moved to Brookings. All these people were saying, well, it's a white state, it's gonna be kind of hard to do what you wanna do, like especially farming, because most of them are farmer and white farmers. So they say, well, if you are able to overcome that, I think you'll be all right.
That's what the people in Africa
Yeah,
are saying?
yeah.
If you can overcome that you're black and they're all white?
Yeah.
Did they think people would be unfriendly towards you?
Yep, unfriendly, or maybe they won't accept why this guy coming here. And I said, well, they did it back 50 years ago. I mean, all these people are farming now. You talk, everybody is like, oh, my dad come from Holland, they come from Germany, come from here. So why is it different for me?
Were you a little nervous coming over?
Oh, yeah. I had mixed feelings, one of those you're excited for what's gonna happen, for what the future is gonna bring. At the same time, the great unknown.
Yeah.
That always makes me nervous.
This land has been in the family for, my husband would be the 5th generation.
Do you find that most farmers that you know have some generational ties to farming?
Almost all of them. I think there are some smaller specialty crop producers that, you know, maybe they just farm a couple of acres. But I think for around here where you have larger tracts of land, I feel like it's mostly generational farms.
I grew up in the farmhouse right next door, the same farmhouse that my grandfather bought, 1945, this farm right after World War II. My dad had the diversified family farm. You know, he had cows and sheep and chickens, you know, and then grew all the different crops, hay and corn and oats and that. Typical diversified family farm. When I came along in the 80s, then the trend was, you know, specialization, the efficiency of scale. My dad always had like, you know, 30, 40 cows. But then we built it up when I came back, you know, 50, 100, 150. And we were making over 200 cows.
Oh, wow.
I grew up here. I went to school here, went to college here, and then moved out to Washington, D.C. Then moving back here as an adult, it's completely different. The 80s farm crisis was basically the start of the big consolidation that we've seen
Big corporations
over the
buying
last
up a lot
30
of
years.
farms,
Yeah,
making
yep.
bigger farms.
Yep. Just bigger and bigger and bigger. And we're still seeing it actively in our state and in other states in the Midwest, you know, where these small family farms, they can't make it anymore, right? They have to either get on board and get bigger, or they have to sell.
One area where they just become huge farm, you know, like these with the thousands of cows in a dairy,
Yeah.
thousands of acres, the big combines and all that. And they're like a big corporate entity, you know. But then there's a lot of smaller farms where they farm but might have a part-time job or more of something specialized. And I think you can kind of make a go of it that way. But just the general family farm concept is not what it used to be at all.
You know, living in South Dakota, most people get on a farm at some point or another. Just got like, hug you, hi. I've got kitties, I got other kitties.
Your husband, did he grow up on this farm?
He grew up on, not this exact farm, but on this section where his parents farm. So their house is like right over there. All the land around us is owned by them.
It's like a donut and you're in the middle?
Perfect. Well, yeah, we got the road.
Okay.
So if my sheep get out, they're just on their land.
That's so cool. Yeah, how many sheep do you have?
We got like 32 ewes.
32
Mama sheep.
ewes. And then how many cows do you have?
We got about 90 mama cows, and then there's a group of steers that we're finishing for our grass-fed beef. Maybe like 20 steers. You know, we keep sending them to Locker, so.
Because it takes longer to finish them on grass, right?
It does. We don't finish them until they're about 2, sometimes even longer.
How about, you know, a normal finish time for a cow?
More like a year. Most people finish on corn, so they gain weight more quickly and they end up fattier. But we like the lean beef of the grass-fed beef, and it just makes me feel good to know that that's what the animal would normally be eating. That's the natural way that cattle grow. So it costs a lot more, takes a lot longer, but
Yeah.
you know, it's the way we want to do it.
How hard is it to make it as a farmer in a small family farm?
I think it's really hard on small family farms. Living rurally, if I want to get into groups, then I'm like driving 20 miles.
Right.
So it has been an adjustment, and it can be kind of lonely. Especially during COVID, I felt like there was a lot of isolation, and you know, it's hard to connect with people.
I think there's a general impression that South Dakota is just really friendly Midwesterners. And there is some truth to that. People are friendly, but people are super independent out here. So we all try to collaborate and work together as much as possible.
Since farmers usually work larger pieces of land, they often work in solitude and have few opportunities to collaborate with neighbors. But a weekly farmers market brings many of them together and provides an opportunity for them to catch up, share experiences, and help each other. The market feels less like a business and more like a celebration of community, friendship, and warm camaraderie, as friends share the fruit of their labor and connect with each other over struggles and successes. What did you think America was going to be like before you got here?
It's gonna
What
be
did you
good
hear?
with the cameras, but exactly like in the movies.
Yeah?
Especially, I was telling my friend, like American Pie.
Oh, yeah,
all this craziness and
Right,
all this.
right. Parties. And...
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's gonna be kind of interesting. But then when I went to Iowa, and it was just in the middle of December. Everybody's home because it's Christmas
Super
holiday.
quiet.
Super quiet. Maybe we were only two of us. It was me and my friend Shalom. And he lives in Sheldon, Iowa now.
Okay.
It's about 3 hours away. And so we were basically like four of us, the entire school.
We do have a pretty rough climate here in South Dakota. Like winter's about half the year. And, you know,
What's it
and,
like getting out here in the
today,
winter when it's really cold, really snowy?
Well, we don't fence for them in the winter, so it's not the same, but we have to get out and put out their hay. You know, we're out there feeding them. If the fountain freezes up, you got to go out and thaw out the fountain. And so that stuff like that can be rough.
How cold does it get out here?
You know, we always have stretches where it gets down to like 20 below, and some years it's like 40 below.
Oh man! And windy?
And you know, windy.
Oh boy!
Roger always tells stories about his grandfather. Every time it would be like windy or cold or snowing, he'd be like, well, but if it was really cold, now we would have something.
I've had them where a roaring drunk blizzard, neighborhood cattle would go from here to way east of Brookings, you know, just get on the road, start drifting down.
The cattle would?
Yeah.
They'd just be walking over because the fences are buried?
Yeah, fences are gone and everything. And
Oh, really? It gets deep enough snow sometimes?
Oh,
that
yeah.
just fences are irrelevant? And you're out here just what? You just put on 18 layers and just go for it?
That's right, yep. That's exactly right. The wind was blowing so hard and snowing so hard, like if you were a cow, I could just stand in front of you and yell and scream all I wanted to, and they would not know what was going on. And they had frozen snot out of one end and frozen manure out the other end, you know.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And when, were you trying to move them in, or?
Yeah, that's what I was
But
trying
they didn't
to do.
know, they were just like.
Yeah,
they
and
were-
I finally did get them in, but, you know, I think I lost 5 or something.
Oh,
you know.
did you?
Yeah, they froze, the ears froze, and
That's dreadful.
I really like being in a smaller town,
Yeah.
but I didn't think it was gonna be way that remote.
That small?
Yeah, that remote. So that part kind of caught me by surprise.
Yeah.
It took me some time getting used to it. And the first year was really hard for me. I
must
had
have
some
been.
mental, maybe really depressed.
Yeah.
So I would go to school.
Just down or.
Just down and okay, I got no friends.
I can't picture you being down, so.
That's what it was like. Cause then I'm used to really moving and doing things.
Yeah.
I walk with my hands like I had no tools. All I had is just 2 bags, and then sophomore year, that's when life changes for me, because then my dad lost his job. Because then my mom had to support all of us, and my dad, and he's kind of older, had time finding work, and it's so expensive to pay for college. So that's when I worked a lot. I worked on camp. I worked for maintenance. I worked for dining service, and did a lot of odd job here and there, mowing and this and that.
Yeah.
And summertime was over 40 hours I worked.
Wow.
To be able to save when I finished school, and I was looking for a town that is kind of like Brookings, that would be smaller but not too big, that I can experience a small town and also have a feel of a little bigger town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. You only came here in what, 2008? 2008.
Yeah. Yep. December 29. I brought over $200.
You brought over $200?
Yep.
That's it?
That's it.
That's what you had? You had your clothing,
Yeah.
a couple bags, and $200?
I have this to prove that, so you don't think I'm making
Oh, let me
this up.
see.
This is when I came here December 29, 08, and that's when I went and opened an account.
This is a deposit slip?
Yep. I think the second was
$200. So you came to the United States with a couple bags of clothes?
Yep. 2
And
bags.
$200 in cash?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yep.
And so after you got out of school, did you have some people who helped you get established here in the country, or helped you establish becoming a farmer or any of that?
I was going to a local church in Brookings, and I met my friend Ben and Kaylee, and I'm here really because of them, because they really connected me to Jim. And I told Jim I grew up at the dairy farm, and I will tell him, I always liked farming. I came here to do that, but I found out land was expensive and this and that.
We had a young person we were helping out, getting started in farming, and this was Ben. And he had pigs on our farm. We had a little place set up. Then
Right here?
Yep, right here on the farm. And then Ben moved on to other things, and Joel came by, and he was very shy about it. We said, do you think maybe I could take over and use his place and raise pigs in there? He said, sure, that'd be really, really fun to do. So he's been there, and he just had a great time doing that. I feel kind of honored to have helped him with his start in farming.
So you've raised 17 foster children.
Yep, 17 foster kids. And when Joel and I saw each other, it was, another black person. And he has pride in his pigs and his chickens and what he gives them, what he feeds them, how he deals with them. And talking to him is like a shot of
positivity.
Yep, and you know that you want more of it.
Jan and Naima, one of those people, something I need, I'm going through something, I pick up a phone and she's always picking up and she say, come on over.
Yeah?
Yeah, so.
She's a good support system.
Oh yeah, I'll say they are kind of like my parents here.
Yeah, so kind of a substitute parents.
Oh yeah, she talked to my mom, she told my mom, don't worry, he's in a good hand here.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Joel is, yes, he's like a son.
I bought 4 piglets, and then when they are ready to sell, I was feeding them organic. And me with my accounting background, okay, I need this, I spend this in feed and that. Okay, I need this to be able to make my money back. And nobody will pay the price because organic feed is really expensive. So I said, 4 pigs are too much for us. So I decided to breed them. From 4 sows, and I went to 8 sows and 1 boar, and then I was doing farrowing to finish, and I had about 300 laying hens on the mobile portable shelter. And I started selling eggs to a farm store at the Gilkerson farm. And then Jim's son, his name is Trevor, he said, well, you're gonna need a name for your eggs to put them in an egg carton. So Trevor told me, your hens are free range, and your animals are happy. You always say your animals are happy, because I always said, they're happy. And why don't you call it, for now, Free Happy Farm? We start joking, people think they are free eggs and this. So we put that temporarily, and I went to the farmer's market, and I put that name, and then people was like, oh, I kind of like that name, that's pretty cool. And people really liked the name, and I opened my farm page, and I kept it.
And were you married at this time?
Yeah.
And you were able to make a go of it? I mean, it was working?
Yeah, it was working. It wasn't enough to be able to do full-time at that time.
Yeah.
But it was at least.
Were you working another job at that time too?
Yeah, I was working in accounting. I do accounting.
Yeah, full-time?
Yeah, full-time. I will wake up in the morning, I'll go there, do my chores, and I'll go to town, walk, and then come back in the evening, collect eggs, and go home and clean the eggs. And Wednesday, I'll do the same, but Wednesday night, I had to go to Sioux Falls, taking more classes for my MBA.
Oh, you got your MBA?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
During the time you're starting this farm?
Yeah.
During the time you're borrowing the land, starting the farm, raising pigs, raising chickens?
Yeah.
And you're getting your MBA?
Yeah.
Do you sleep much?
At that time, it wasn't not many sleeps. But
If you spend time around farmers, you'll quickly learn about the value of hard work, ingenuity, struggle, and perseverance. In South Dakota, early mornings and late nights are the norm. And almost everyone seems to develop a keen relationship with their land, as well as the relentlessly changing conditions that keep every farmer from developing even the least bit of complacency.
Here in the Midwest, in Iowa, South Dakota, people really support the hard work. And then you can go there and say, I want to do this and this. And they'll be like, okay, that's great. And they support you. But then over time, they can really see that you really mean it.
And it's more important than what color you are, whether you're man or woman. They want to see that you work hard.
That's right.
That you're genuine.
That's right.
It's a struggle, but like anything that's worth it, it's a struggle. You know?
Oh, yeah. I think there's great value going through the struggle. It gives me that ownership and knowing that, hey, you know, this is not something just someone come and hand it to me. And there's great lessons you get out of it and the wisdom you get out of all those struggles and being able to survive with very small is being a great value to me now. I have one kid now.
Yeah? How old?
He's 3 months old.
3 months old? Oh, you have a brand new kid.
Yep.
That's great.
The first 2 weeks, I will have a different answer, but now it's great.
Yeah, right.
You change the diaper, you feed him, you do everything. They start crying again.
You're like, man, what can I do better?
Yeah, and for me, I like fixing things. So like, it was really hard because like,
you can't fix it.
I can't fix it. I don't know. I can't help you.
Yeah, it's not a V8 engine.
Yeah, no. So it's just crying. So, but when sometimes things are kind of hard now, I'm like, you know, I think we're all right. Because remember that?
Right. With each struggle you overcome, there's more confidence you can overcome the next one.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, I think you do things the easy way too long, and pretty soon you can't do anything. Everything's hard. Everything seems hard.
So even though life out here is, you know, I guess, arguably hard, because it's hard work, it's exercise, it's walking, it's lifting,
it's cold, it's
a cold and different weather and all that. But then when you get used to it, I guess it must feel really good.
It does feel really good, but it's one of those things where I feel like a lot of people don't understand that mindset. There's a lot of clarity that comes with just doing something. And so a lot of times you'll be sitting at home kind of having a yucky, like, oh, I don't know what to do. I gotta like all this on the computer. And then I'm like, you know what? I gotta put this aside for a while and I need to go out and put up fence, and it clears your mind. Hi, Sirloin. Hi, Sirloin.
Is it kind of meditative sometimes just to do a task like putting up a fence or moving a paddock?
I love it. Yeah, I mean, a lot of my friends that talk about, they'll listen to podcasts when they do stuff like this, but I never do because it's just a time for me to, just think about what I'm doing, be in the moment, be present, and just enjoy, you know, whatever the weather is. I love the sky in South Dakota. We have
this
amazing sky, and almost every day, whatever it is, I'm like, look at that sky.
God, it is
so beautiful. And so I just love being out, enjoying it, taking it in. Whatever it looks like on any given day, it's always beautiful.
I love chickens. Our farm is small, so I needed something that I could manage myself, and it could just be my deal. And I was crazy about chickens. I just find that they're fascinating creatures. They each have different personalities based on their breed, different temperaments, the heritage breed versus the hybrid breed. There's a ton to learn about chickens. I'm a crazy chicken lady, I'm a crazy egg lady, whatever. I go by all those names.
That's awesome. How many dozen eggs do you produce a day?
I'm selling 200 dozen eggs a week.
Wow.
So that's my weekly sales. And I still don't have enough birds to meet my demand. So what I do in addition to having my own flock is I have about 15 suppliers I buy from. My label is pasture raised, so I make sure that all my suppliers are doing that. Their birds are out on pasture, they're not penned up. They're feeding them natural grains, they're foraging a lot. I'll buy a few dozen eggs, bring them home. I'll cook with the eggs, I'll taste the eggs myself to make sure they're of the quality that's my standard that I want. And that's kind of what I always focus on, especially with the eggs that I produce and sell. It is completely different what you're eating, completely different. An egg from a chicken that is out on pasture, they say it has a quarter less cholesterol than a factory egg. It's got more vitamin A and D. It's got, 8 times the amount of beta carotene. It's like so much healthier for you, for the human to eat it. It tastes so much better. I mean, you could blindfold anyone and you could do, your factory egg and your farm fresh egg, and you're gonna be able to tell the difference.
What is it about farming that causes some people not to ever want to leave it? What's it like?
To me, it's very much as being my own boss. I get to decide what I'm going to do every day, how I'm going to do it, make my own plans, make my own mistakes, you know, and things like that.
But there's a lot of ways you could be your own boss. You could be a trucker, you know, you could drive a taxi cab, but you're not doing those things. So what is it about farming in particular?
Well, I like cows, you know?
Yeah, okay. At what age were you helping out?
I was 6.
Yeah, really young.
You help out really young on the farm.
Yeah.
And I actually started milking cows probably when I was 8 or 10, you know, helping with that. And my son Trevor, he milked cows with me a little bit, but he doesn't really like milking cows. And we figured that out. So we've kind of cut back on the cows now, and then he's got his greenhouse business.
I was 15 years old, I built my first real greenhouse. It was 12 by 12.
Wow.
And the idea was I wanted to be able to grow plants all through the winter. I didn't like this long winter when you couldn't do anything with plants, basically, you know. And when I went to college, I built another one. And I remember in that greenhouse, that's where I started growing tomatoes in the ground, just like I'm doing now, to see how that would work. And it took a lot of trial and error. I did a lot of things wrong, learned a lot, what not to do, kind of thing. And then finally we built this greenhouse way over here that's it's a 30 by 60.
30 by 60. How big is this one, by the way?
So these are 34 by 96.
Oh, okay.
So each of these is just about double what that one is.
Okay. Wow. I can't believe how long some of these plants are. They must be 30 feet long, some of these.
Yep, so we grow indeterminate plants, and that means that they will continue to grow a stem. And basically what we do is we prune off all the suckers, which is any little side shoots that come out. So you maintain just a single vine.
Okay.
That main stem will grow about a foot a week. So depending on how many weeks you grow the plant, if you grow for 30 weeks, you're gonna have a 30-foot long plant by the end of the season.
Oh, wow. They really grow
that's
fast.
where we're at now, because we're getting to the end of the season.
Tell me how these guys work. Like, how do you decide when to make them go up and all that?
You know, you'd add a clip up here.
Uh-huh.
And then once it gets up to the top of that spool, you let some string down and you slide it over. And so that way you've always got a productive plant that's about 8 feet long.
Oh, I see.
Everything below that, you harvest the tomatoes down here, you clip the leaves off, and all you've got is a stem at the bottom.
So it's just a hose to feed the top part.
Yep, and the new stuff just keeps coming out the top. You get new flowers, new fruit, new foliage, and you just keep that process going.
So what does it mean to you? You know, the fact that you're taking, you know, water, soil, and some fertilizer and...
It's what I think about all the time. You know, when I'm not in here doing it, I'm thinking about how to do it better, you know. When I first got into doing the farmer's market, that was where I sort of put it together. You know, someone appreciates what I'm doing enough to be able to buy it from me. That was really inspiring.
Through high school, growing up, I enjoyed working outside and gardening. The spring I graduated high school, I was thinking about what I wanted to do. And I just thought, well, if I could make money doing what I love, being able to work outside and grow a garden, that would be really awesome. So I started Glory Garden the spring I graduated high school. And it started out really small. The first couple years of my business was like a little kid running a lemonade stand. I was spending pretty much every day outside, sun up to sundown, and I loved it. I really enjoyed being outside and just getting dirty and being in the sun. But it was also very overwhelming to try to do it all, because at that point I was growing everything, but then I was doing all of the marketing and the sales and the customer service. So a couple years into the business, I started meeting a couple other farmers, and the first one I met was actually Stephanie Peterson.
Okay.
My customers were asking me for eggs, and I didn't have eggs to sell, but I met Stephanie and she had eggs to sell, and I thought, well, how about I just sell your eggs to my customers? After I was doing it a couple years and I was growing everything myself, I started to meet some other produce growers, and I realized, you know, from talking with them and from trying their stuff, they were just doing such an amazing job of growing it, and actually better than what I could do. One guy had a greenhouse, so he was able to have season extension and to be able to grow tomatoes and cucumbers for a longer amount of time.
Was that Trevor Gilkerson?
Yeah, Gilkerson. I also, just from talking with them, and as I had grown in my business, I realized I really enjoyed the sales and the marketing part of it. Even though I had started out doing it because I actually liked the labor and the hard work outside, I had come to really love the customer service and the marketing and the sales. And went from meeting these other farmers, I realized, why don't I focus on the marketing and allow the farmers and the producers to do what they do best, which is growing. I wanted to figure out how could I make it easy and convenient for families to get locally grown food. Everything else is ordered online nowadays.
Yeah.
Why can't my customers place an order for produce online?
So?
That's what I did. I built a website where they could actually place a legitimate order and pay through the website. And then once the order was placed on the website, I would pick it, package it, and deliver it to different drop site locations in Sioux Falls.
It's always a constant, negotiation and finesse of what's the season gonna allow us to do from week to week, weather-wise and demand-wise.
Yeah.
But it's spread more and more and continues to grow, over and over each year.
Besides the produce, we also sell beef, chicken, pork, bison, lamb. We have eggs from 3 different producers. We have honey from 3 different producers. We've got black beans, pinto beans,
Wow.
wheat, cornmeal.
The meats, are you getting those from Tanya or what?
Yep.
Cool, yeah. 'Cause
My beef is coming from Tanya. I'm hoping to get more pork from Joel when he can get a slaughter date at the locker. The vision that we see is that we want to be able to keep this business and have it when the kids get older so that they can be involved in it and just learn the value of caring for people in such a tangible way. I want to teach them to be like little customer service representatives, to greet each of our customers with a smile, to help them carry their bags to the car. And I want them to have that hands-on experience working.
As I spend time with these wonderful people, it becomes easy to see that farming is more a lifestyle than a profession. All of them enjoy a freedom, an authenticity, a love for the land, the outdoors, and the animals they tend to. Being outdoors, under an ever-changing sky, producing the crops and animals that feed a nation, is something that these men and women can't find anywhere else. Did you know since the time you were a very young kid that you wanted to stay in the farming business?
I really like farming. I went to SDSU and I have a degree in mechanical engineering. So I considered that a little bit, but God, my heart was just back here, the family business. We probably had the biggest dairy in Brookings County for a time,
And you had a couple hundred dairy
200 cows, probably over 400 head on the farm, so it was really busy. We hired a lot of college kids, had like 8, 10 kids milking cows, 12 hours a day out there. And
so they're using the machinery?
Oh yeah, they have the machines, yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but it's still a lot of work. Then my son came back, we kind of shifted, went a different direction. We only have about 20 dairy cows right now. Plus the cows and calves. Then we bottle milk that we sell just on the farm, glass bottles, fresh milk right off the farm. We've come full circle though. We went from a small diversified family farm to a large corporate structure. Now we're back again in a small diversified family farm. We have horses and tomatoes and cows.
How did it feel to you to be a large farm versus a small farm?
Well, being kind of an engineer and a progressive type person, you always want to build a big business out of it. And that was just the way things were going at that time. The modern equipment and that kept bigger and bigger like that. It got to the point where it was almost standardized, and then the big dairies started coming in, building 1,000 cow dairies all at once. And I wasn't really interested in that. It was more fun building the business from a small business up to a big business, and I really enjoyed that. And I guess it was partly my son's idea when he came back from, being more the agronomy type person. We went into the rotational grazing system, which is what we use now, and the cows are on pasture.
Do you like that better?
Organic? No, I really do.
Tell me why.
I think it's better for the cows, and I think it can be a very lucrative way of doing it. But we kind of have a mindset of the commercial operations. We do it now, but I've always thought if I was 25 years old instead of 65, I'd really pursue building up a big grazing dairy system. They do that in other places like New Zealand and that, and I think it's a lot of potential. It's more natural, more organic and those kinds of things, which is the modern way of doing things. After having the very intensive confined system like that, it's really fun to have this diversified farm. But I don't know. I don't know if it'll catch on because all the modern equipment, of course, is for huge, large scale. You can milk hundreds of cows per hour and that. So I don't know. I don't know if that ever fit together or not. But
I see. There's probably a lot of economic pressure to continue to do it once you have the equipment to use it, right?
Yep.
The land next to us became for sale, and I wanted to do it, but then it went to close to $10,000 an acre.
For how many acres was it?
160 acres.
160 acres, but $1.6 million, huh?
I don't have that.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so, and,
Wow.
and there's an older guy who's like, we need younger farmers, you know, we need young people to get into the business. I say, that's why you don't have young people get into the business, because it costs $10,000.
Yeah. Is that happening more often around here?
I think I've heard it's happened more often around here now. I think
less family farms and more corporations?
Yeah, a lot of little farmers, they're getting out of business. It's become tough. So people with bigger farmers with a lot of money, they are willing to pay more than they really need, which is not good for someone like me.
Yeah.
Because now, okay, well, they say, well, people are paying $10,000 now, but that's way too much. Well, that's what everybody's paying.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
then the young people are having a hard time getting into the business.
After I graduated from college, I moved out to Washington, D.C. and worked on Capitol Hill for the senator from South Dakota. And I did that for 10 years and got stuck in D.C.
Really, in D.C.?
Yeah, in Washington, D.C. And so it's interesting because I didn't really understand how the commodity market worked, how agriculture worked as a whole. It seemed like this mysterious thing to me, and I never quite understood how it all worked. So whenever I'd come back to South Dakota, I'd visit my uncles who were ranching and just like find out as much as I could about what they were doing. One thing led to another, and I started hanging out with a bunch of local producers. I started learning about the food system and what it looks like on a global scale, what it looks like on a national scale, and I was just so disgusted by so many aspects of it.
What disgusted you?
You know, right now I feel like there's so many people who don't know anything about the food they eat. And food is one of the most important things to all cultures, right? Food is what, like it brings us together. It's community building. We've lost that in a lot of our areas of this country with the consolidation of the food system. And, you know, we've had, you know, the corporations that are buying everything out. And you go to the store and, you know, you're shopping at Costco and you're shopping at Walmart. And you have no clue about how that food is raised.
But how is it raised?
I've bought chickens before that were unfortunately bred at a hatchery where they breed, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of birds, and some of them go to confined operations. When I got these birds, I got 50 of them, they didn't even know how to be a chicken. Like all my chickens are out free ranging and they're pasture raised, they're not penned up. And when these chickens would be let out, they didn't know what to do. They've lost their instincts. They didn't know how to forage. I saw behavior in those chickens that like was bizarre. Like I'd never seen a chicken act that way. And I'm not naive to think that commercial, large-scale agriculture is going anywhere. I mean, it's a huge industry. It's got so much behind it and so much money behind it. And we have a state that is pro-commercial ag and pro-industrial ag. Okay. And so they'll do everything they can to get more industrial operations in our state. And they are not helping the small family farms or the mid-sized family farms or even the large family farms. But what I would like to see is more policy that supports small producers and local producers. So the organization that I serve on the board for is Dakota Rural Action, and they're a statewide nonprofit here in South Dakota. And they basically were born of the farm crisis in the 80s. So a bunch of farmers came together, started the organization because they wanted something better for themselves. We have chapters around the state, and those chapter members decide the issues that they want to work on. And then they write campaigns for those issues. So there's a lot of organizing that goes on there, trying to get the community to be able to get their own needs met, right? Against a huge corporation that's coming in.
Yeah.
We also do a lot of education with the county commissioners, because often those county commissioners, they don't know they can even say no to these permits. You know, they just assume that if a permit comes across their desk and we're in an agriculture state, they got to say yes to it.
So Matt, how did you come to be associated with the Dakota Rural Action?
I moved back to Sioux Falls. I grew up here. And when I was outside of the state, I had friends telling me about an organization in South Dakota working around and organizing around the KXL pipeline. When I heard about Dakota Rural Action, I was like, here we go. Like, this is something of interest for me. And I got wrapped into doing our farm beginnings program, which is an education program for new and beginning farmers to learn how, not necessarily to like actually farm, but to how to plan in a holistic management approach to setting goals and values systems that allow you to succeed at farming for 10, 20, 30 years, multiple generations components. So South Dakota has a lot of really some heavy baggage that's got to unpack as a state, especially when it comes to food. We have a food system designed to sell carbohydrates and not necessarily sell healthy, nutritionally dense food that thrives off community. So once we get our state and our institutions on the same page, you know, we could go just 5 miles, not even 5 miles, to a farm that, you know, could provide Brandon Valley with feed for the school system in the summer. Most farmers don't necessarily have the liberty to make decisions that are gonna like dictate their land. So they don't have the option of like, okay, you know, I think amount of hectares over there I should turn into pasture. Well, at this point in time, to do that would take them multiple years to then take that corn and soy out of rotation and then work to make that into a pasture-based system. But there's not a lot of federal policies that allow for people to actually get paid for that process.
So they're losing money in the process of trying to do what's right.
5% of rural America farms, and South Dakota is actually less than that. So like the majority of people on land that actually have that choice, they don't actually have that choice. Like it's not a choice.
You mean it's not a choice because it's not financially feasible?
Yeah, there's not an option. It's not an option. So at this point, we spend more time educating consumers about making sure that they back and support those farmers that are doing it well here.
So we don't lose them.
Yeah, and so they can scale up.
Cool. So how would you say it's going?
We need more people, right? We got to build a bigger base. We have to build, you know, thousands of people in Sioux Falls that are on the same page and the same space to make action and change.
You care for your animals.
Oh yeah, I care them greatly, yeah.
Yeah.
I make sure they have what they need. Wintertime, like I was saying, I'm gonna get ready to go get beddings. I make sure they have deep beddings.
Yeah.
If you go to my shed during the winter, at night, you sometimes can't even see those pigs. They need to bury themselves to stay warm.
Yeah.
And then summertime, make sure they have enough water and food. And I think that helps people here in town at the farmer's market. You can tell when the end you have a healthy animal. When you test the meat, you can tell that this animal has been healthy and raised good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it actually produces a much better tasting meat.
That's right.
To have an animal that's treated really well.
Oh, yeah.
So how old were these cows when you got them?
So these were all born here on the farm because these are the babies that are growing up.
So describe what that's like, you know, raising animals from the very beginning and all the way to market. What's the relationship like?
When you're doing a specialty thing and you want no antibiotics and, you know, no growth hormones and all that kind of stuff, it can be really hard to get what you want. And so when we have them from babies, we know everything, how they've been treated.
I'm thinking of the contrast, being in D.C. city, working in politics, and now you're working on land with animals. Like, how does it feel? Is it gratifying?
It feels calming. I actually, when I got this new flock, that first night, I had them all locked in, going to bed, and I went into the coop with a headlamp on and shut the door, and turned my light off and sat down, and it's pitch dark in there. And you've got 160 birds all sleeping on their roosts. And you just sit really still, and you can hear them, and they do this cooing sound. You know, it's like this.
Calming?
Yeah.
Was it soothing for you?
And I just sat there and cried, right? Like crazy chicken lady. Like, that is so beautiful. The sound, the peace, you know, these animals doing what animals are supposed to do.
When I move those pigs around, they get to exercise. They put more oxygen in their muscles, which make them healthier. It's kind of like us, when you sit in one place, you become unhealthy.
Right.
You gotta move and move, which is great for them. So
I think people forget that we're animals too.
Yeah.
So what's good for us is good for
Exactly.
animals, you know, pigs and sheep and goats and cows.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, well, if these animals is like, they sacrifice himself for us. So if we get to eat, maybe then the time this animal is here, 6 months or 9 months, maybe we should make it great for them. What's so excited? What's so exciting? Huh? What's so exciting? Oh.
When it was time to do our fundraising dinner, we needed a pig, and we wanted one that was raised in a grass-based system on pasture. Someone had mentioned Joel and been a member of DRA for a while.
Hey guys. Come on, buddy, let's go.
So I reached out to him and told him what we were thinking and asked if he would have a hog ready this fall for us. And then we talked a lot over the next 4 months. He wanted to make sure the hog was the right weight when it got here, and talked about the process of how we were going to get it here, butcher it, cook it, everything. Whenever you butcher an animal, it's a very somber experience. This animal is sacrificing its life for us. So it was very quiet, it was very peaceful, it was, of course, I'm an emotional person, so, I was crying, I think a couple other people were, just not out of sadness, but out of, gratefulness, and being grateful that this animal is giving its life for us, We dug a pit in the ground, we lined it with brick. We had a fire going for about 4 hours to heat that brick. They stuffed the cavity with tomatillos and all this delicious food. They did a dry rub on the animal. We wrapped it all in wet burlap and in tin foil and then lowered it into the pit. And it cooked for 18 hours. We covered it with dirt and let it just basically cook. And then we dug it out the next afternoon. Tonight's pork is raised in a pasture-based system. And we have the farmer here tonight, so I'm gonna have him talk to you just briefly.
I can see it in the morning when I go there, or anytime you can just see those pigs. They get a chance to root, they get a chance to move outside on the pasture. In return, they are healthier, they are happier. In the end, we get more healthy and good products.
Ever since I arrived in South Dakota, I've been welcomed like a part of the family. People here seem forged by the realities of a tough life, such that they tend to be no-nonsense, genuine and serious, taking care of each other, sharing and helping out is a way of life, and a badge of honor.
I'm kind of used to the corporate life a little bit, and I hear about her making business decisions off of handshakes and collaborating with competition on well, I want her to have some product too, so we can both sell product.
That's
I'm just
wonderful.
like, this is so odd to me, and so I kind of have to wrestle just kind of with my instincts a little bit, and just kind of appreciate that for what it is. It's a community of people that are like-minded, and we're all trying to kind of forge our path.
Do you know why I know you guys are going to grow and be successful? Because you're not focused on growing and being more successful. You're focused on what you're doing right now. You're focused on the customer service, the doing something really right for the right reasons, creating a community. Everything you talk about isn't about conquering the world. Everything you talk about is about respect and doing something really well right now. Anytime I met somebody or a company whose primary objective was to go out and make money, they don't make very much. But when I meet someone whose primary objective is to do something that's a great service to somebody or build a product that people really would like or like to use, huge success comes from that. The fact that you are so pure of heart in your purpose, and the fact that, like you said, that you're like, well, I want to make sure some of my competitors have enough to sell too. I mean, that kind of attitude, I think, is, and that kind of goodness, I think it comes around, and so I'm sure that you'll have great success, whatever success means to you.
We are living in a very competitive world, but also we are living in a world of abundance. There's so many things out there. Technology, you can do whatever. So my main goal is to tell my story and hoping that maybe this will help inspire someone else. Whatever situation you're going through, you can reach your dream, and it's not gonna be an easy road like exactly what they told me. It's gonna be really tough, but somehow God usually find a way to bring people into your life. I met Jim and I met Kaisa, his wife, Trevor, and many other people, and this is amazing. I wouldn't be able to be where I am now if it wasn't for the support and the help people around me. I don't know what's gonna happen, but it's just believing in God gonna find a way bringing these people in my life.
My time exploring the lands and people who farm the Great Plains of America has been emotionally enriching. I'm inspired by the seemingly boundless energy, commitment, and perseverance that these people bring to each and every day on their farms, and to each and every person in their community. It warms my heart to learn how, seemingly against the odds, a man with only a dream and $200 in his pocket could travel halfway around the world and be so welcomed by the many people who quickly became his colleagues in South Dakota. Once again, I see on full display the warmth and love of the human spirit and the natural connection which surrounds people all over the world. Have you met Joel Salatin?
No, I would really like to meet him. Joe is one of a really big inspiration. I read all the whole
His
book.
books are excellent.
Yeah.
But let me just see if I get lucky and catch Joel.
Oh, you're gonna call Joel? Are you serious?
Yeah, I could call Joel.
Hello, this is Joel.
Hey, this is Monty Moran. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Hope you are.
Yeah, great to hear your voice. You know, I'm sitting here on the South Dakota-Minnesota border on a small farm with a young man named Joelle who came over from Tanzania, and you have been his biggest inspiration. He's got loads of great habits, many of which he learned from you. And I just wanted to, if you could just say hi to him real quick.
Sure.
Hey, Joe.
Hi.
I can't believe this. I read your You Can Farm book. During the day, I listened to your YouTube video. You have been a great inspiration for me.
Oh,